Hello and welcome to Educated STEM. I'm Kate, the founder of Educated STEM, and today we're going to continue the series on how to be successful in graduate school, and we're going to be tackling what happens after your first year. So in your first year, you have taken courses, you've done your prerequisites, you have done a few rotations. Hopefully you have decided whose lab you're going to be joining and they have agreed to take you. So what happens next? So you're going to probably have some advanced courses to take, and there might be a number of different options that you have to choose from, and there might be a very obvious choice for you. So if you're doing cancer research and there's an advanced cancer course, fabulous. Same for immunology or whatever it is. So just take the courses that make the most sense so that you can become a true expert in your field. And then obviously you need to pass those courses. The same deal with the first year. If you fail the exam or if you fail because of attendance or whatever it is, then it might take time for that course to be offered again. It might not be offered every year, and that is going to delay your ability to continue in the program. Perhaps if you think about when you can take the course, maybe you want to spend the first few months learning more about your project, figuring out your experimental protocols. Maybe you need to get training in certain areas. And so taking a course during this time would just be a bit more challenging. So maybe it will be offered later in the year or the following year. So just kind of make a plan of when you're going to cover these necessary courses. You are going to need to continue to attend journal clubs. There might be seminar events that you need to go. Make sure that you sign in so that they know that you attended. You don't want to turn around later and say, "I know I was there," because they need the physical proof that you were. The next thing is you are probably going to have to be a TA or a teaching assistant again. So what are the requirements? How many hours do you need to do? And what do you need to do? Again, update your CV once you do them for what classes that you helped with, which professors, and what you actually did. And I still need you to think about whether you actually enjoy these things. So what did you enjoy? What didn't you enjoy? Are you good at them? Because if you want to improve something, you need to know, okay, I'm not great at that. I can definitely spend some time improving, but how is that going to help you? Is it something that you need to be able to do? Would it just be something nice that you would like to do? And also, let this kind of guide what you want to do after graduate school and the potential career path. Because if the potential job involves many tasks that you either don't enjoy or you're not very good at, then you might want to consider a different path. Now you've selected your research mentor, it's time to really focus on learning the topic. Let's figure out your project and plan it out. Design your experiments, get the training. If you are given a project by your mentor, then you can probably kind of dive straight in. Some people might still expect you to figure out your own project. So you're going to have to read the literature, find a gap in the literature and a question that you want to address, and then move on. Obviously, that is going to be far more time consuming than if they say, this is a potential project, please go off and run with it. And some people, they want to do the difficult one. They want to choose their own project. They want to kind of do it themselves. Just know if you do that, it's going to take a lot more time. And, maybe getting the guidance from your mentor is a good thing because they will have selected something which hopefully will produce results, but also in the length of time for your graduate studies. Because at the end of the day, you need to have something within a certain number of years in order to move on. You should write out a list of questions that you want to address and various experimental designs. And if you are responsible for your own budget, you should probably figure out how much each of these things are going to cost to make sure that you actually can afford to do it. Again, it might be worthwhile for you to make a Gantt chart so that you can see, what are the questions, what are the experiments, where are your courses going to come into this, where are your journal clubs or vacations and other things, where are the conferences that you might want to attend, just so you can kind of visually plan it all out. Or if maybe a Gantt chart doesn't work, again, it may be just having a calendar, something like that. Whatever works for you, just have it all there. Put in what you need to learn, and maybe you can, ask people in your lab if they're doing an experiment that you need to learn, that you can first observe them doing it, and then maybe they can help you do the second one, and then maybe they can watch you do a third one, just to make sure that you become proficient at the experiment. Make sure that if they give you a protocol, you keep it, annotate it. Usually there's some sort of tip or trick that isn't noted in the experimental design or protocol, and so write it down. Maybe if it's easier, take a video of them doing something with their permission, of course, so that you can physically see how they maneuver something, or if there's something's a bit tricky, just so that you can watch it later on if it helps. And then, because you've helped them and they've helped you, maybe this is a way for you to then get your name on their papers, and for them to get their name on your papers. It's a potential. It depends on your mentor and how much help and assistance both of you have done. Just something to consider. You're going to be attending conferences as your mentor allows. Obviously, this is going to come down to funding. Yes, it's nice to go to international conferences. That isn't always feasible, but there's national conferences, there's local conferences. A lot of associations or groups have, small conferences and meetings every year. So, make sure that you can go to them. Just throwing some examples out there. Maybe your graduate student organization has one. Maybe you're in a large city and there are multiple universities or research institutes and they host a combined one. There's the Graduate Women in Science, there's the Association for Women in Science, there's the American Association of University Women. That's a few female ones just to consider. And then there might be something called Nerd Night. There's Nerd Night LA, and I know there's Nerd Nights in some other cities as well. And so that's kind of fun. It's, a couple of people usually get up and present their research, usually in an environment which is a bit more relaxed. So it could be in a pub or a bar or something where they've got a private room, so that they can socialize and also get your research experience shared with other people. And so all of these things are really good. Any presentation experience that you can get is definitely beneficial, and they're going to all be different times. So can you talk about your research in a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Can you give a longer, maybe a half hour or maybe even up to an hour presentation? All of these require, slightly different skill sets. And if you can talk about your research in a couple of minutes, you've got an elevator pitch, which will definitely help you later on when it comes to networking. So make sure that you get all of these different experiences and that you become comfortable presenting and talking about your work. When you go to any of these, unless it's like a small local conference like Nerd Night, apply for travel funding, either from your school, your program, or the association. And if you win it, put it straight on your CV. Trust me, you don't want to be there, maybe a couple of years later thinking, oh, I know I won an award, but what on earth was the conference? When was it? Where was it? What did I present? So make sure that as soon as you get it, update your CV as quickly as possible. Now, the next stage is possibly the first thing that will cause you more anxiety, and it's either comprehensive or qualifying exams, and these can come in a variety of different forms depending on what your school requires. So it could be a literal written exam on all of this topics that you've currently studied. It could be that you need to write a document similar to writing a fellowship or a grant application, kind of talking about the project that you want to do. Or some people actually want you to write it on something that isn't your project, and then that written proposal goes to a committee. They read it, you then give an oral presentation, they will ask questions about it. They can all come in different flavors. So read your handbook and figure out what the requirements are for your school or your program. The next thing I want you to do is try and watch someone else do it before you do. So, the year before, maybe you're a first year, you can go and just watch someone. So you actually know what is coming and you know what to expect. Because it's better knowing what is going to occur rather than worrying about it and then probably worrying yourself over nothing. Then do a mock exam with someone that you trust. So maybe it's a postdoc or a lab manager. Probably won't be your PI, but maybe it will be your professor. You never know. So, treat it like the real thing. So show them the written document. Maybe you're going to give your oral presentation, whatever it is, and then open it up for questions. And you want them to, give you the tough questions. You want to make sure that you are prepared and ready when you go into the real thing. And I'll give you a little story from my mock exam. So I had a postdoc who trained me and who was wonderful and was very, very helpful. And then there was a postdoc who just joined the lab and was less helpful. So we were sat there, they were asking me questions and it was all going okay. I felt pretty decent. And then the newer postdoc, Jason, asked me to draw out an entire chemical process, which would have involved a lot of things. And I hadn't prepared in any way, shape or form to do that. I completely froze and thought, oh my God, I can't do that. And so I couldn't do it. And then my experienced postdoc, Sarah, looked at Jason and said, well, Kate doesn't know the answer, Jason, so draw it. And he couldn't do it either. And after Sarah realized he couldn't do it, after rolling her eyes into the back of her head, she just drew out the entire process without any issues at all and just handed me the pieces of paper. And, you know that I had learned all of that before I then went into my actual examination. But I didn't even realize naively that that was a potential question. And I really should have been prepared for that. And ironically enough, it didn't come up in my mock exam. It came up and I literally drew the whole thing out in my actual defense, or my viva as we call it. So it did come in useful. So even though it wasn't very nice, Jason, Sarah, you saved my bacon, and it definitely impressed all of my examiners. So if you're watching this and you as this person who are preparing them, be a Sarah, know your stuff. And, if you're going to ask a question, make sure you know the answer to it. It was very silly. Anyway, don't be discouraged if you don't know all of the answers as they ask you them in the mock. That's the whole point. You need to know what you don't know and get to it, because then you can prepare for the real thing. And don't be discouraged once you actually have the real thing. Examiners might want parts of the written documentation to be rewritten. They might want you to do another oral presentation. They might just decide that actually your progress up until this point has been subpar, and they might just fail you. And that's a bit of a bummer. Hopefully, if they do that, you might leave with a master's degree. But sometimes they might just say, you really haven't done very well and you need to leave. And there's something to consider about this, because if you leave after you have passed the qualifying exams or the comprehensive exams, whatever, or maybe you have both, then it reflects poorly on the program because you've shown that you have the ability and that you were ready for it. If you fail up until this point, they could potentially just say, oh, that person wasn't a good fit for the program, or they weren't ready for graduate school, or whatever. They can get out of it without it reflecting poorly. So this is kind of the key moment. Are you going to stay? Are you good enough to continue? So make sure that you put the effort in. Assuming that you've passed all of your courses, your comprehensive and or qualifying exams, you are now moving from a graduate student to become a graduate candidate. And sometimes this is referred to as ABD, or all but dissertation. So this is fantastic because now at this point you can just focus on your research. So next time I'm going to talk about your dissertation committee and building it, and how it all works. So please join me again for that. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.